Nation of Fitin10, welcome to day 3 of the challenge. And yesterday I talked about the workout portion of this challenge, the 3 cardios that you're going to do, the 3 classes that you're going to do per week. And today, of course, I got to talk to you more about the food intake. The hardest aspect of the food intake in this challenge is going to be getting in enough protein. This is just typically what I see with people, and generally people's diets are very low in protein. And protein is going to be very, very helpful to you in this challenge. There's many reasons for it. We'll get into that in a future video. But just a couple of things that are really going to help you in this. First and foremost is the satiety that you're going to get from eating more sources of protein. Okay, especially protein-strong foods. And we're going to try to get one of these every single meal. Now, in terms of percentage, and this might vary from person to person because I've had people that just did our last challenge are doing this again, so the numbers are a little bit different for people in terms of percentages. But most of you are getting about 25%, at least right now. 25% of the calories are coming from protein. So you want to try to make sure that you're getting, every time you eat, at least, let's say, at least somewhere around 7 to 10% of your calories for that meal coming from protein, all right? We went through this in the meeting. Somebody did request the Excel spreadsheet that I used in the example. I had that day, those 4 meals listed. Somebody asked if they could have that spreadsheet, so I'm gonna send that to that person. If anybody else wants a spreadsheet, let me know. But in that spreadsheet, I had all the macros listed for the day, and my suggestion was to divide each of those macros by 4, and that would give you your macros for 4 meals, right? So you would take your total protein for the day. Let's say it's 100 grams that you're getting. So you know that each meal, if you're having 4 meals, each meal you're going to try to shoot for 25 grams of protein. Now, in terms of knowing what foods are high in what macronutrient, there is a non-exhaustive list of sources in your manual. So if you go to page 33, you're going to see a list of protein-strong foods. If you go to page 34, carb-strong foods, carbohydrate-strong foods. Page 35, fat-strong foods. Again, non-exhaustive. This doesn't mean I have everything listed in here. But if you're unsure, start there. All right. Now, I know that somebody had asked in the tutorial about if you're vegan or vegetarian, what to do. Yeah, I mean, certainly if you're not eating animal flesh sources of food, if you're not eating, red meat, poultry, fish, this type of thing, it does make things harder. Of course, it's gonna be even harder if you're vegan, just because we have one section of foods that is stripped away, and it just so happens that that section of foods is protein-strong food. Virtually all of it is protein-strong food. So, it will make it a little bit harder. If you are vegan, or, let me just stick with the more extreme of the two. If you are vegan, and I say extreme only because of the amount of foods that are taken away. If you are choosing to be vegan, that's fine. You just have a limited amount on what you can eat for protein sources. But there are many great things out there, like there's various soy and pea-based protein powders out there. I am actually a huge fan of our chocolate vegan protein powder that we carry here. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I can even give you a sample. Also, there is, what's it called? Vega has a really good chocolate one as well. Not their chocolate sport, but their chocolate, it's their non-sport version. It actually tastes pretty decent. I'm not a huge fan of the taste of most of the others, but yeah, just to give you some clarity if you're looking for something that tastes reasonably good. And I realize that taste is obviously individualistic, but those are 2 good choices. Soy or soy-based foods, tofu, tempeh. If you are vegetarian, of course, there's things like eggs and cottage cheese and yogurt you can have depending on the type of vegetarian that you are. Of course, if you're vegan, then we're going to be much more limited. And so I would highly recommend that you supplement. I would also highly recommend, strongly recommend this, supplement with an essential amino acid product. The reason I suggest this is because even if you're getting the amount of protein that I want you to get in your diet and you are vegan, it's going to you're dealing with sources that are not as bioavailable, so you're not going to get all that protein. You're going to pass through more of that food. And secondly, you're just not going to get as many of the essential amino acids. All right, so we'll talk about that in a future video. All right, so I'm kind of getting into the weeds here. Coming back and keeping this as basic as possible. Resort to your manuals, page 33, 34, 35, for your protein strong, carbohydrate strong, fat strong foods. Do your best to get your macros every day. I'm asking you to be within 10% of those numbers. Okay, so plus or minus 10%. Enter your food into Myfitnesspal. So this is an app that you've got on your phone, right? You're going to enter all your foods in and be very careful. Be very, very careful and diligent with measuring out your foods. Okay, all your solids should be weighed. You can measure cooked food, that's fine. Just make sure that you have an accurate entry, because there will be a difference between eating, for example, portioning out your food, whether it's raw or cooked. For example, chicken breast, okay? Or, something, let's go with something that's, quite obvious here, rice. Typically, so if you cook with rice, just to give you an example here, if you cook with rice, rice will absorb just over about 3 times its weight in water when it's cooked. So you can imagine if you portioned out 50 grams of raw rice, this is actually going to work out to be about 160-ish, it's a little over 150, about 160, 165 grams of actual cooked rice. But what I was just doing is if it's something like rice, you just cook a whole pot and then you can portion it out afterwards. All right, so do your best with your foods to make sure that you weigh everything out. If it's liquids, I'm okay with you using volume, because that will be consistent, but we can't use volume for solids because you can imagine that's going to be inconsistent. Okay, so again, I'm going to mention this one more time. Pages 38 and 39 of your manual, make sure you read through that. There's a lot of little diet stuff here, common errors that people make. Read through that and let's try to avoid those. Okay, pages 38, 39 of your manual. All right, I want to make these videos shorter. I vow to do so. The future videos will be, I promise you. Message of the day on this day 3 of Fitin10. You don't have to be extreme to achieve results. You don't have to be extreme to achieve results. You just have to be what? You've got to be consistent. Okay, now obviously we're talking about being consistent with the right things. Okay, now whether this is exercise prescription, whether this is food intake, we don't have to be extreme with these things. We just have to follow something that is reasonable and consistent over time. This is where the magic lies. You're going to see that your calories are going to be reasonable through the challenge. All right, your exercise amounts I give you are reasonable. Less than 3% of the time of the week is going towards exercise. Everything is reasonable here, but the key is to keep up with it and never to stop, never to give up, right? All right, so positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, for the love of God, give some gratitude, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.